is the Theotek Podcast, and this morning we have a special guest with us from a company called Verse3, or an app rather, called Verse3, and we're going to learn about that. But first, I just want to say hello to our good friend Rick, who's actually back home today after long traveling, showing off Accordance Bible software. He works for them and does a lot of training for them. Rick, how you doing this morning?
Great. Good morning.
Good to see you. We hope that we would have Wes with us this morning, but he hasn't jumped on yet. He might come in just a minute. He's one of our regulars if you haven't watched before. But Antoine's with us, and Antoine invited David Fedor. Am I saying that right, David?
It's Fedor, but whatever.
Fedor, okay. And he's the creator of Verse3. And so, Antoine, I'm going to let you kind of introduce him and take over from here. Antoine.
Cool. Well, I'm still in Australia, so good evening to everybody.
Yeah.
It's pretty nice up here in Cairns, tropical country. But definitely want to introduce David. Gosh, I can't even remember where David and I first came across each other. But he reached out to me after one of our Theotek conversations about the UI of Bible software and how unbeautiful my opinion was about it, and he shared some of those same constraints, but he has a developer's heart, so he built something about it. Asked me if I take a look at Verse3 in a very early state, and I was immediately impressed with its paradigm. So for those who might be saying, Bible app that has another Bible app, yet another Bible app, this is a Bible app that's built from the notes out. So most Bible applications are built from reading and then notes, or for getting you to publisher's library and then maybe reading and then maybe notes are tacked on at the end. Verse3 actually starts from the notes first and then goes to the text and search and all that other good fun stuff, and I'll let David kind of introduce that. But it's very hard for me to get hooked on applications by any means, and I'm very much hooked on Verse3, and slide over on iOS has even made it more attractive. And so I asked Dave if he'd come on board one of these Fridays. He's in Switzerland, so it's middle of the afternoon for him.
Yep.
We're all over the time zone here. But I'd like him to talk a little bit about what led you to create Verse3, and kind of give us all an introduction as to this notes out approach that you've done for Bible software.
Yeah, thanks. I'm really glad you like it. I started writing this app a little bit more than a year ago because there were a bunch of things that I wanted Bible software to do that just nothing was doing. And I wanted to experiment with some ideas of how can you come at the Bible and learn about it and take notes during sermons and search the text with a couple of different UI concepts that were different from anything I'd seen anyone else doing. And so I had been working for a great company for a long time and decided to resign and do this full time. And after almost exactly a year of development, I just shipped the app, and people are liking it. And a lot of people are going like, this is different. And I said, yes, that was intentional. So as Antoine said, I was trying to do two things. One is do a better job on when you're listening to a sermon and you want to take notes, or you want to compare Bible passages. I wanted to do a different way of doing the user interface than other things do. And the other thing that I wanted to do also was do a much better job on searching the Bible text, finding stuff. So I can give a quick demo, just like a 1 minute here that would to give a sense of it.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
All right, let me hit screen sharing. So this is running on the simulator on my Mac here, and this is the initial view that comes up after you start up the application and get through the intro. You'll see that there's a bunch of different Bible passages in little bubbles, and the idea is that you can gather these things together such that you can see all the verses that are being discussed during the sermon or in the article you're reading or whatever, and see them all on the screen at the same time. So, like for instance, let's do a little testing and pretend that I'm listening to a sermon today. So let's say the pastor is talking about, I don't know, what's your favorite verse? He's talking about Psalm 1, And so, I just sort of add the verse like that. And then he's also talking about, Romans 12. So verses 1 and 2. And, he's talking along, and you figure out that he's not, in fact, talking from the HCSB. He's talking from a different translation, so let's switch to the NASB. But then you want to say, like, okay, well, how do these verses, compare between the different translations? And so you can click on it and say, compare translations. Now, in this one, I've got, this one here is a French text that is not released, but I was just sort of experimenting with it because we speak French and German here in Switzerland. But I like the display in that you can compare the different verses and understand a little bit better what's going on. And then, as Antoine was saying, you can also take notes. This was interesting because whatever, right? Type your own stuff and add more verses to that. So this, I find, yes, I also read the Bible in sort of the normal, back to front style or looking at it in the context. But I find this to be really useful such that when he's bopping back and forth between, say, Psalm 1:1 and Romans 12, you can see them both on the screen at the same time without having to flip back and forth on your device, which is really painful on most electronic devices. Oh, I actually should also say, if you want to see it in context, you just tap here on the side, and then you see the full thing, and you can scroll around within the chapters and so forth. So go ahead, Antoine.
Yeah. So one of the pieces, that you already reached out to this, that this is definitely a different paradigm than many folks are used to, or at least those that are fairly used to Bible software, because you really are starting from, in a sense, kind of pulling the Bible together yourself. You're, in a sense, building your own commentary. The other draw for you was this: you have this feature where the notes, or at least these files that you're saving, they're not saving in the app itself. Can you explain a little bit about that and how kind of use this data inside Verse 3, but also elsewhere?
Yeah, you can save so this file that I've been creating here, that's called 2015 1030 demo, can just be saved on the device, on your iPhone or your iPad, but I find it really useful to save it in Dropbox. So I've just got it connected to my Dropbox account, and then if you click here on files, these are just 4 different files that I've got that would be in Dropbox. Actually, right now in the simulator, it's not connected to Dropbox, but it works exactly the same way. But the sense is that you can go online on Dropbox and grab that file out, and you can see the verse references. You can grab the text out, do something else with it. Now, Antoine, I don't know if your eyes noticed, but this is this version that I'm running here is one that is about to be released, and it's got a new menu item where you can, then take your thing and you can mail it to other people. Man. So if you hit mail, then there you go. You can send mail to someone with these verses. So hopefully that's actually in review at the App Store. We'll see how long they take to get through it, but it's one of the things I was working on. So let me just quickly bop over to the other thing. The other main focus that I was trying to get to on this was, can I do something that has a different way to find text in the Bible, to search? A frustration that I had with all Bible software, including the Bible software that I've written in the past, right? This is not a criticism of anyone's Bible text. But a lot of times when people search the Bible, right, you look and you see the top searches that people do, and people are looking for things like love. People are looking for things like forgiveness. What does the Bible say about, pick a topic, marriage, homosexuality, divorce, a lot of hot topic things that people think that they know what the Bible is saying about it. And the problem is that when you search for these things, if you search for love, you get 310 verse references, and that's not a good way to get a sense of what does the Bible talk about. What does it say about love? Or similarly, if you search for marriage, you get 25 verses where the word marriage is used, but that's actually not very good because it doesn't even hit where God instituted the whole idea of marriage. And so I do a lot of different things here in Find. One of the things you'll see here on the screen is I've got a topic overview for marriage. And so if you tap on that, this is a bunch of, like Tori's topical textbook would attack things, but an overview of here's what the Bible says about that. And when you then want to look at one of these things in particular, you can click on it and, again, see it in context. A different thing that I did in Find is I wanted to work a little bit better with let me take a step back. A lot of times when people search the Bible, for us who are used to reading the Bible, we have a verse in mind that we're trying to find. Where's that one about, whatever. But a lot of people aren't doing that. And instead they're saying, I want to see all the places where they're talking about X or a bigger picture topic. And so one of the things that I did is I said, I want to and language, right? So if you search for sing, it gives you all the references of the word sing, but if you can switch to the synonyms, that'll use forms of the word, that'll use synonyms, that'll use parts of speech in order to get a better answer of, like, where in the Bible does it talk about singing? And then you can turn some of these off if you want. If you don't, in fact, want a thing about singers, you can just untick it, and then the results update automatically. Another take on this, if you search for, let's see, what's a good one? If you search for Saul, it'll say which one did you want, because it's unlikely that you actually wanted both of them, right? It's unlikely that you wanted the verses of both of them mixed together, and so it just says, well, which one? And you just tap on it and you get that one. So this works, particularly helpful for Mary. So you can pull out, okay, the sister of Martha and Lazarus, what's that? It's only 11 verses, but it would be really hard to find this if it was mixed in with all the other Marys that are in the Bible. So thus end the demo. Let me switch back out of screen sharing mode. How do you do that?
That was great, David. That was absolutely great. I know Rick has some questions. Rick works with Accordance Bible software, and yeah, a lot of these features will obviously seem quite similar to him, some of which that he may be able to talk about and some not. But Rick, what if any comments would you have off of what you've seen so far?
David, the good demo, and the software looks really nice. You've got $5 minus 30% now in the bank because I bought the app just a few moments ago, and already connected it to my Dropbox as well. I had a couple of technical questions for you. I saw, like, on the topics you're pulling from Tori. Is that correct? From Tori's topical textbook? Is that?
I have Tori's in the app, sort of as a fallback. Tori's is nice, but it was written 100 years ago, and sometimes that really comes out and is really painfully obvious in the language. The great thing about writing Bible software, as you know, is that being 100 years old doesn't mean it's incorrect, and it can be really, really useful. But I'm using that more as a backfill. My wife and I went through and we're trying to give condensed overviews of a lot of topics, and so we hit, I think, so far the first, 30 or 40 big name topics like love and faith and joy and marriage and homosexuality and whatever, and trying to give a much more condensed version than Tori's would give, right? Or any sort of exhaustive treatment on these topics would take books. But we wanted to sort of give the nugget of it for someone who maybe doesn't know what does the Bible talk about this topic. So we tried to do it really carefully, such that it was not swayed by the type of church that we go to or whatever. It just sort of mainline Christianity. But that's where we really wanted to start, and we're intending to expand that more.
The synonyms that you showed too, like for sing, do those change according to the translation that you're using? And is that something that you've just kind of put in these synonyms yourself?
It's pretty well automated. I have support, I think, for like 6 or 8 translations at this point, and I certainly didn't want to do those all by hand. But you do have to do a little bit of tweaking, or actually a lot of tweaking, because sometimes there are synonyms that make sense from a dictionary perspective, but the words in the Bible text are not meaning that sense of it. And so I had a lot of work in trimming it out, and such that you get generally correct synonyms and forms of the word.
You know what would be interesting, and I was just sitting there watching you do this, and I'm not one of the programmers at Accordance. I just kind of help promote it, but I know, like with our iOS app, there's certain kind of analytics that you can turn on, and you can get that information back from Apple, and it's anonymous for the person. We don't know the person, but we can get how many people are using notes, how many people are doing that kind of thing. And as I was watching that, I was thinking it'd be interesting for you, for us, for everyone. And I don't know if you can do this because I'm not a programmer. You'd know better than I would. But it'd be interesting to know what the top searches are that people are doing. If you know those top searches that people are doing, then you can really make sure that those are, when I'm talking about, topical searches, that kind of thing, then you can really kind of fine-tune those and make sure that those are always getting the best kinds of results. But I don't know if you can do that in iOS or not.
There are a lot of ways to do that sort of thing, and I saw that, for instance, Bible Gateway has posted for the last couple of years what are their top 10, top 20 search terms that people are looking at. And that was one of the things that sort of triggered me on this. Like, when you search for that, you get the literally correct answer, but it's just not a very helpful answer. So that's that's the problem that I wanted to try and have the software address. And the jury's still out, really. I find this really useful. I don't know if other people are going to find this really useful, but part of the reason I was doing this is also to just bring some new ideas into the Christian software mix, and have you guys also think about, do you want to do something like this? Are there other problems that I've noticed that you guys wanted to tackle? Because obviously you've got a lot more users, a lot more impact than I have.
Well, what's nice about your software is that not only is it fast, but it's also minimalist. In the sense that you don't have a lot of screen elements kind of getting in the way, and that's nice. That's the thing that I know that we always kind of fight against too. I'm still thinking about the topic search and the synonyms and so forth. Are you using any kind of I'm not trying to find trade secrets. I'm just, you feel free to not say if you don't want to. I'm not saying it competitively. I'm just saying it because I'm always interested in this thing. You'll know from these guys.
Kingdom, so I'm not hung up about holding this stuff.
I was going to say, you'll know from these guys. I've got every Bible software platform on here. I'm always interested in these things. But are you using any kind of underlying like Strong's numbers that connect these translations to each other, word to word, that kind of thing?
Not yet. That's actually on my to-do list to further mine that, because it is a good source of information. Right. Especially as I branch out. Well, you saw the French text on the screen a little bit earlier, but especially as I switch over to other languages, I want to be able to do a much better job in cross-language searching and making sure that I have all the synonyms, that I should be having from language to language. Sure. I've got a pretty good coverage in this. That's not one of the things that is holding me back right now, and so I'm focused on other things. But there are a lot of ideas that I want to put together, and things like using Strong's numbers and more cross-translation searching are some of the things that I want to be able to add in so that you get more accurate search results.
Yeah, sure. Good. Well, I won't hog all the questions. I'll let some other folks ask some things.
Kevin,
glad to have you with us this morning. I just want to mention, I mentioned Wes might be joining us, and Wes Allen, he's a pastor from New Jersey. And so, David, he just popped on a second ago. So good morning, Wes. We're glad that you're able to be with us. You missed some of the presentation, but do you have any questions or thoughts for David?
I'm kind of enjoying watching right now. And Rick had asked a couple of the questions that I was interested in about the preset searches and things like that. So those were all things that, they've programmed in to differentiate Mary from, the mother of Jesus and this, sister of Lazarus and stuff. So that's things that I thought were interesting. So I'll shut up now and just watch.
Okay, I like your note-centric kind of approach. I could find that this would be a much wider appeal than just pastors and teachers. I had a question though for those of us who are on the speaking side. Do you have any interest in adding like an import feature where you could import text maybe that I have created in a word processor or in a text document that I could import and actually use this app for preaching from the app. You know, on iPad, I always preach from my iPad or my Surface Pro 3, and I could easily see if I'm importing my outline into the text, and then I just, you know, put the insertion point there and add the verse text, you know, so that all I'm using is my iPad. Have you thought about doing something like that?
It's a good idea, and I was really smiling when you started asking the question, because this very morning I was writing a new feature that had sort of come to me that I think would make that a lot easier to do, and I didn't get it done right now, so I can't demo it, but it's at least mostly done. The other thing you can do even right now is, since you're saving the files to Dropbox, if you look at the files that Verse3 creates, they're just simple text files. And so, in fact, it would not be at all hard for you to, well, I guess it depends what format your outline is in. But you know, anyone who has access to the list of verses that you're talking about could very easily put that into the text file, and it would just work. In fact, one of the fun things that I do sometimes when I'm interested is I'll be editing the text file in Dropbox on my Mac, and then just having an iPad sitting next to it and displaying the results, and it updates within usually 3 or 4 seconds.
Oh, okay. So I could actually open the text file on my computer, and every time I hit save, then it automatically comes back to the iPad in
Verse3.
Exactly.
David, how do you have the notes text file structured?
It
does recreate the formatting?
It's really simple. It's just it's a text file with 1 line per entry, you know, per verse.
So it's literally that's it.
It is literally that simple right now, and that was intentional, because you know that was not an area in which I was going to be adding value by writing this app. I might switch to XML or JSON so that I can do some other more interesting formatting stuff. But for right now, if you just put a verse reference on every line and hit save, it'll turn up in Verse3.
But think what a pastor could do with that, though. You know, a pastor could you can create those files. It's just a basic text file. Hand them out to the people in your congregation, and they could put it in the Dropbox, and it would be something they could open right there to the app.
Yeah.
So, guys, I almost actually did that. David, you'll be happy to know that it works really well while doing presentations.
Good.
So actually, one of my presentations I did out here in Australia this week, the Theology of Mobile Ministry, I did the entire outline in Verse3. The entirety of the outline was done in Verse3, and then I copied it over and linked it up all pretty in Wikitext and copied it over into Keynote. So it's actually not that hard to start in Verse3 from starting a sermon perspective and stick it other places, whether copy, paste, or export. I found it not only fast and easy. It was probably a little too fast. There's a bit of friction, and Olive Tree and Logos are good app examples. There's actually a little bit of friction is by app design when you're going from verse to verse. It's only a second, piece of a second, but it's just enough to get you to think a little bit more. That actually doesn't exist in Verse3, and I found grabbing verses and grabbing them fairly quickly, that friction was gone, and so I could really concentrate on the structure of what I had to say rather than did I have the appropriate verses. And even if I didn't have the whole verse, which in the case of this talk I did, being able to click quickly and get the context of the whole thing so that I can continue the discussion in context was quite impressive. So it is just enough different, I found so far, but I've got a little bit more play left. I've got a few more preaching engagements coming, so I'll let you know.
Great, sounds good.
What other translations? The app comes with the King James and Holman Christian Standard Bible. What other translations can I get now, and do you have plans to add more in the near future? I think you said something about that.
Yeah, today it's the NASB, NIV, and New King James that are available for in-app purchase. And in the version that is waiting on App Store approval, there's also added the web version, World English Bible, which is a nice, free, fairly modern translation that's still going on. There's a bunch, there are a couple others that I already have rights for, that I've already negotiated that stuff, and there's also some other ones that are in negotiation right now.
I've got one coming your way soon, David. That's also quite open, per my friend from another mother. But I've got another one coming your direction.
Great. Now,
All right.
I knew I needed a couple of the big name translations in order to have people use it, but this was an area in which I'm really not in competition with the other Bible apps that are out there. I want to try these new ideas and hopefully give some ideas to the other people who are writing Bible software, and that's great. And I also like my app, and I think some other people do too. But it wasn't my intention to make yet another Bible reading app, right? Because a lot of people have done that, and they do that very well. But adding more translations is sort of the, I could do that, but I'm not in this to make money. I'm in this to try and say, how can I do some better software and attack some new needs in some new ways.
Tell us about your background. You said earlier that you came from a great company. I'm not sure if you're, for some reason, not willing or able to share that, but tell us about your background, how you got from whatever it was you were doing to, I think, did you share online, or was this in our pre-show discussion that you used to do Bible software a long time ago?
Yeah, that was before we started here.
Okay.
I've been a computer engineer, software engineer ever since forever. Worked at a lot of great companies. The most recent three were Apple, Palm, and Google. All great companies. Learned a huge amount there. And yeah, I mean, I love Google. I didn't quit it because I didn't like it. I resigned last year because I wanted to create this software and do some new things. And if it works, great. If it doesn't, well, I'll go back into the normal corporate world in probably next year, because my daughter is about to graduate from high school, and so when that happens, well, we can move anywhere. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I brought that up just because I think it's good for people to know that you're not just some guy. You've got some chops. If you're working for Google and Apple, which I didn't use, you told us Google, but I didn't know about Apple and Palm. And then you also created the software that Laridian purchased that became the basis of their My Bible software. Isn't that right?
Yeah, that's right. So how I got into doing Bible software was actually when I was still working at Apple. This was a long time ago. This is probably in '94 that I started writing Bible software. And actually, the reason was that I was I was working for Apple, representing them at the Comdex booth. And I was in Las Vegas and just not liking the environment all that much. And I said, I'd really like to have the Bible with me, while I'm out and about in Las Vegas. And so I think I did, in fact, type in that first chapter of, I don't know, one of the epistles to have with me. And then I said, okay, how about if I turn this into something real? And so I wrote the software initially for the Apple Newton, which is an early handheld. And then after I left Apple, I went to Palm, and I switched and ported it to Palm OS, but this was just sort of an evening thing, right? This is moonlighting just because I wanted the software, and I had some friends who also wanted it, and it took off, and people started buying it left, right, and center, and it got to the point where I really couldn't handle it anymore because I would get home from a long day at Apple or Palm at that point and have all these users who were asking me questions, and so I was just about to throw in the towel, and then Laridian came and said, hey, we'd like to do some Palm OS software. How about if we work together? And so short form of it is that I wrote the software and they did everything else. And it was a great partnership. And later on they started writing some of the software too. But it was a great partnership, and I still keep in touch with them as well.
Yeah, we're hoping they're getting ready to release some new stuff, and I've already talked to Craig about coming on and speaking to us. And so he's kind of one of the legends in Bible software. I write for what is now Ministry Tech magazine, used to be Christian Computing magazine, and we have what we call our Hall of Fame, and he was one of the first 6 inductees into the Church Technology Hall of Fame, and it's deservedly so. He's one of the early pioneers in church and Bible technology. So that's pretty cool. I was an early customer then. I was benefiting from your expertise and skill early on as a Palm user before I got into the Pocket PC and then iPhone from there.
Good, good. I'm glad. Actually, it was funny. I loaded up the Newton version of the software on an old device I had, and I was just sort of shocked at how clunky it was. At the time it was good, but when you look with modern eyes at that, it was like that was a long time ago. But honestly, it also sort of was one of the impetuses for me to write Verse3, because I was saying the way that I did search back then is more or less exactly the same way that people are doing search today, right? Because it's just sort of the obvious, you type in a word and it shows you all the verses. And I said, I think we can do something better. So this is my attempt at it. You guys can tell me if you think it's a good one or not.
That's incredibly useful to have that. I can't remember which software it is. They have a similar feature calling it fuzzy search. Is that Accordance or is that somebody else, Rick?
That's Accordance.
Okay. Thank you, Rick. I'm teasing. Yeah.
Sorry, I was muted. Yeah, Accordance has fuzzy search.
Okay, and that's such an incredibly useful tool, but then also having a very simple app like yours makes it useful. And I think I'm with Antoine. I downloaded it while we were talking too, and so you got another $5 today from us, and I'm happy to share it wide, and I'll probably write an article about it in Ministry Tech after my next one. But it's just such a neat thought and an interface, and I'm really thankful that you came up with the idea. I think it'll be really useful as people get to know that it exists and is out there. Because honestly, until Antoine brought it to us, I periodically search for Bible software in all the app stores, just looking for them. And so I hope that we can help you get it promoted, because it's a really useful tool, it seems like.
Well, thank you. And this is also the interesting thing about this whole experiment for me working on my own as opposed to in these big companies, in that I'm an engineer, right? And I think that my software is pretty good, but my marketing skills, and this is just not the sort of thing that I enjoy. And so, so I'm sort of moving into that mode right now and trying to balance, adding more features versus, getting the word out. So.
We've got some folks that'll help you on the marketing side. That's not a problem in the body. It's a lot of marketers in the body.
And also, add those features slowly, because I think right now, actually, I think one of the values of it is simplicity. That's becoming harder to find in a Bible app. As I use a lot of different Bible software and Bible apps, both on desktop, laptop, and tablets and phones, in my job of writing for Ministry Tech, and the what's the term they use for it? Something creep, the
feature creep.
Feature
creep, yeah. Feature creep is beginning to get, because Bible software has started to become very mature, sort of like Word. In the early days of Word, you could actually learn to use every feature of Word and need every feature of Word. Today, very, very few people use but 10% of the features of Word, and it's starting to happen in Bible software as well, I think, especially some of the most complex programs out there. And even their Bible apps, they take that complexity and try to replicate it on the phone or the tablet when it's maybe really not necessary. And yet I'm one of those customers who keeps saying, I need more, I want more, I want more. So it's sort of my fault and their fault. But I like the idea of, there's a couple of apps that I've kept around because they don't have tons of features, and this may be, replace one or two of those on my home screen.
Yeah, it is a classic problem in software that what software engineers do is they write code, they write new features, right? And so there's this huge drive to be adding more things in, and it's obviously really important to be able to say, to take the time to step back and say, what is the core of this? What can I get away without? How can I remove stuff from the user interface but still give all the same results? And that's, it's an art. It's the art that goes along with the science of writing software.
Indeed.
Go ahead, Antoine.
I was saying, indeed. One of the sessions that we did out here was talking about just that, about how to design something for a low bandwidth low bandwidth, no internet environment, and how feature creep really becomes a very hard thing to deal with, especially in that in that context. The solution is definitely an artsy problem just as much as it's a scientific one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what also helps me is to hold myself back. Is honestly one of the my test devices is this is an iPhone 4S, and this is still running iOS 7. And if Verse 3 runs acceptably fast on that, then I'm happy with the speed.
Good man, good man. I got another one for you to test it on.
That's a great philosophy. That's a great philosophy. If it runs fast on that, it's going to run fast on the latest 6S Plus.
Mm-hmm. No, I have to say it's just barely acceptable on that. But one of the things that I was also trying to do is to just make this really simple and obvious, because the person that I'm trying to help is not it can hopefully indirectly help people who have gone to seminary or pastors or whatever. But I'm really trying to help the normal people who go to church on a Sunday or, Wednesday home groups or whatever it happens to be, that want to learn more about the Bible and want to be able to interact with the sermon, to dig into it, to gain from it. And so there are things that I could have added that would have exposed the fact that I do have Strong's numbers information in there, but most people don't know what Strong's numbers are, and they shouldn't need to have to know in order to be able to learn a lot about the Bible. Now, it's a benefit if you could take the time to learn that sort of stuff. Fantastic. If you can learn how to read Greek, fantastic. But most people don't, and so I really wanted to be focusing on enabling them. Enabling sort of the normal person who's trying to learn about the Bible.
Very cool.
Anybody else have any questions? Okay, I just wanted to ask you about the multitasking features, say on the iPad Mini 4 and iPad Air 2 and the upcoming Pro. How well does it handle those things?
Just fine. I think Antoine, you said you were also using the multitasking on your iPad.
Right. I use it on the Mini 3. Slide over, it works great. It actually resizes better than Apple's apps, so that's a consolation to things. So I would imagine not just with slide over, but side by side apps, you'd run into no issues. Other than keeping attention on the right thing.
I just showed it on my Mini 4, and of course it works great. This screen's a little small for doing the side by side half screen, but then here's running my Word in 3/4 and then it in the other fourth. So it actually resizes nicely for that purpose, and so I could see myself, if I had a full-size iPad, definitely using it and preaching with it open and my Word notes open, even if I didn't want to use the app just for notes. Or you could see yourself studying with it. Sometimes it's difficult to have two verses open on one screen in one app, and with yours I could easily create a verse list while I'm studying in, say, the Accordance app or Olive Tree or Logos or something.
Yep, absolutely. My intent and my expectation is that people are going to be adding in other resources from other apps, that they're looking at either simultaneously or one after the other. And I'm definitely not trying to make Verse 3, do everything that all the other apps do, because they do a good job, and so there's no need for me to recreate that.
One of the cool things about there are programs like eSword, and it has a huge user base of people creating their own Bible modules. Is that even possible with Verse 3? For example, if I had let's say I wanted another book that you never have any intentions of including because it's contrary to your philosophy of what the app should be, but I want it in there. Is there a way that could happen other than just making a text file? Is there a way that you could get it in there and do the searching of it? I was just a thought. I don't know.
It's a reasonable question, because I know there are a lot of translations that I'm not ever going to get to, a lot of human languages that I'm not going to get to. One of the things that makes it complicated is that for my find to run really, really fast and also get the synonyms and parts of speech, etc., there's a lot of processing that I have to do, and I have to understand, okay, in this translation, the form of the word X is being used here and not there. One of the other things that I didn't demo is that if you search for spring, for instance, it knows the difference between a spring meaning water coming out of the ground and the season and to jump up, right? And so having that knowledge in there means that I can't just sort of let other people randomly put in things because, well, I guess I theoretically could, but it would take a lot of time to export my tools that are very, very single purpose right now.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was just curious about it. I didn't know that. I understand perfectly the technological hurdle of doing that, and then also it's that's a special feature that if I started bringing in a bunch of Bibles or books into it and couldn't do that, I end up with 3 or 4 Bibles that I can and then 38 that I can't. I'd sort of forget that unique feature is a part of it, and then lose some of the specialness of verse 3. Well, David, I really appreciate you joining us. This was a great demo, and going from not knowing anything about it to now, I feel like you've converted me to a fan. So it was a good demo, and also I think you've done a good job, and I look forward to seeing what comes from it. Anything else, guys, before we move on?
Nothing else from me. I did my part in selling you 3, so I'm good.
Thank you for making notes plain text, which is what they should always have been anyway. Get on that, Rick.
David. Well done, David. It's a nice deal. Yeah, well, our notes aren't, I don't know if they'll ever be plain text, but maybe there'll be an export or something that would make them plain text.
Well, thank you for your kind words, guys. Thank you for all your kind words, guys. I appreciate the feedback, and send me email, whatever, if you have other ideas. I'd be happy to hear.
Well, David, you're welcome to stick around. I think we maybe have 1 or 2 other things we're going to discuss before we close out. We usually try to go less than an hour, and we've only got about 15 minutes left, and both Antoine and Wes had something they wanted to share. So if you want to just hang out with us for the next 15 minutes, that's fine, or if you feel like you need to go, don't feel like you have to hang out, and that's fine. We'll leave it up to you.
I'll be happy to say. I'll just,
Okay.
Go ahead.
Antoine, tell us about the land down under. What you been doing? Have you seen any dingoes eat anybody's baby?
No, but I did eat some kangaroo, which was actually very good.
Oh wow!
Very, very.
I hear it's like steak. I hear it's just like beef
more
steak.
More like deer.
Oh, okay.
It was more like deer.
Really?
Yeah, really good and gamey. I very much enjoyed it. Very much. Tomorrow, hopefully, croc. Hopefully.
Give us a paragraph of what you were doing down there. What was going on?
So I've been down here in the land down under for the last 2 weeks. Global Recording Networks, used to be Gospel Recording Networks. They are one of the 2 very large agencies, missions/media ministries who deal with Audible Bibles. So they create the audio files for biblical texts. For right now, they have about 6,000 languages in their queue. And about 3,500 of those are tagged with decent enough metadata that they can actually push those to mobile apps. So I spent the first week in the city of Sydney, very beautiful Sydney, with their team, talking with their IT team about current projects, upcoming projects, helping them think through some of their strategy as it relates to mobile devices and just mobile in ministry as a whole. They both serve, well-developed markets, the U.S., Great Britain, Switzerland type, but their biggest push are into those low literacy environments. So one of the teams that I got to interact with this week works in Papua New Guinea. Papua New Guinea right now has an internet penetration rate of about 18%. They've got just about as many mobile phones as they have people that are touching the internet as well. But most of those mobile phones are smartphones, and so they're really working with a community, several communities in PNG that can't read but need God. And so GRN is very much on the floor of doing that. They do it with an app called Five Fish. You can go to Five Fish, the number 5, fish.mobi on any mobile device. It is a very simple but very effective website where you can download MP3s of biblical text in any language that you can possibly imagine. It's literally organized by country and region. It is ridiculous how much stuff is out there. And then I also help them with some apps that are not yet public, but will be coming soon, some children's apps and a few other apps to really help the body of Christ in an administrative facility, so internal type things move forward. So that was really cool. That was week 1. Week 2, I was the keynote speaker for the International Conference of Computing and Missions Australia conference. So ICCM has a USA and Africa, a Europe and Australia, and I found out this week a Papua New Guinea conference, and this year it was my turn to be the keynote speaker for the Australian conference. So I had this week 4 presentations this week to do, and I covered everything from the future of mobile, this stuff, all the way to using apps like FireChat and other person-to-person messaging engines to facilitate conversational ministry, not just pushing content at folks, but getting people to talk to one another so that churches actually stay alive. They don't just plant a church, they leave and then they die, but they actually stay up. So it's very good time. Got to meet, like I said, folks from PNG, folks from the Darwin area, all the way over on the top left side of Australia, and I'm totally coming back. Totally coming back here. This is a pretty amazing country. It's very clean. Folks are actually really like their health, and the fruit here is amazing. Ate passion fruit for the first time. Ate the best pineapple I've ever had in my life. It's really a blessing here, and to be in a place where, in terms of the continent, barely 10% of the folks here go to church on a regular basis, and just a little bit more than that identify themselves as Christian. It's a pretty nice mission field, not just for the local church, but just for the body of Christ. So to be a part of helping a very significant ministry here push the gospel forward was absolute pleasure on my end. They blessed me way more than I could have probably blessed them. And I got toys. So here's one. This is how we give Bibles in low internet areas. It's called Wi-Fi Bible. So if you go to wifibible.org, it's a little hard drive, flash drive in there, and it basically is a hotspot. And then you have the really complicated one, Bible Box, which is another ministry here in Australia, actually here in Cairns, that works that out. The Wi-Fi Bible is disseminated by the good folks at MAF, Mission Aviation Fellowship. I actually got to visit their facility up in Mariba. And if you can't find Mariba on a map, go to Sydney, keep going north until you see Cairns, and then it's a little bit north of that, but it's in the middle of nowhere. There's a bunch of Australian red sand and a bunch of airplanes, and they fix airplanes up and minister to people in the absolute remotest of places. It's amazing. And this is how they take the Bible to them. They have phones, so they take the Bible to them this way. It's absolutely amazing. In places like PNG, where there's a little bit more of a power infrastructure, the Bible Box actually stands on top there. It is a full hotspot. It's basically a whole computer. But again, the ability to be able to be a hotspot in high transit areas, and even when there's little to no power, both of these devices work with less than 12 volts of power needed. So it's the Bible anywhere, which is amazing. Fivefish.mobi is one of the apps on here. Faith Comes by Hearing has an app on here. Bible app for kids by YouVersion has proven to be very popular. It's pretty neat. It's really neat stuff. So like I said, that's been my last 2 weeks. It's been pretty amazing.
Now you sort of buried the lead here. These gadgets. I mean, that's what we're all about. The other things were awesome, but I want to know more about this. How much is $199 Kina in U.S. dollars about?
Give me a hot second. So 199 peanut, that's PNG money. So that translates to it's 2 to 1 for Australian side. So it's $100 Australian, which right now it's 73 cents to the U.S. dollar. So you're paying $73 U.S.
Okay.
I've been doing that all week, so that conversion is beautiful. 70%.
So then they got the
off.
solar version. That's coming soon.
Yeah, the solar version. I actually saw the demo of that one. It is absolutely cool. The solar version, they've actually hacked a solar panel from an OEM as well as the PC. It's able to be a hotspot in the sunlight and also run an LED light at night, so that you can continue to broadcast audio content from the device at night, or obviously have downloads. But obviously, again, the bigger part is that from an economic standpoint, it can be a solar light and a spare battery, so you can charge up folks' mobile phones and give that presiding pastor, deacon, the ability to make a little bit of money to actually be the gospel, not just preach the gospel where they at. It's pretty neat stuff.
So then, what do you do? Explain this a little bit more detailed. Let's say I set this up in in some hotspot. A missionary has a centralized home in their, wherever. Anyway, and so they set it up. People connect to it, and then does it like open a web page and then offer them the Bible in text on the web page, or?
Exactly. So just as you would, just as we would go to Starbucks and we get that ugly landing page that says accept and connect when we get the Bible, you'll see a SSID that says free Wi-Fi Bible or something configurable in that wise, and you connect to that and you can get whatever Android APKs, .jars, Java files. I mean, there are about 15 ministries that have contributed content for the Wi-Fi Bible, Wi-Fi Bibles that are available, so folks can just connect to it. So and do understand, folks aren't necessarily going to the internet. For example, Papua New Guinea. The cost to get on the internet is very similar to what it was for us in the U.S. about 10, 15 years ago. So if they could afford $30 a month for internet, it wouldn't get them very far, maybe 10 megabytes, maybe 30 megabytes. So being able to connect to a hotspot and via Wi-Fi is pretty much a blessing and a half. And then to have
are they distributing the books as EPUBs at all?
There is an EPUB on there as well.
Cool.
Yeah, there's one EPUB Bible on the Wi-Fi Bible that's actually written in one of the native texts for Papua New Guinea, which
awesome.
For the one that I have, which is pretty sweet. Literacy again being a major issue though, so trying to get people to read is not necessarily the goal as much as trying to get them to hear the good news.
So could we like donate? I mean, I didn't see anywhere, but do you donate and allows them to distribute more into mission fields and that kind of thing?
Yes. Your donations would actually go through MAF, missionaviationfellowship.org, maf.org, and you would push your items there. If you go to purchased Wi-Fi Bible or a Bible box, you will receive one unless you indicate otherwise that it's supposed to go elsewhere. These devices actually cost absolutely nil to make. For example, this Wi-Fi Bible here, it cost them about $20, $25 US to make this. So pretty much for what it costs for them to build and ship it to you, they don't make any money on that, and that's on purpose. But MAF is one of the folks, and then Bible Box, that's a separate organization that's doing that.
And I actually have that
you want to donate to either of them, go for it.
I have that exact router, Antoine.
Yeah, man. It's literally the same thing. They just paid a little bit less. Just a little bit less. But it's amazing, man. It's absolutely amazing what is able to be done, with a little bit of ingenuity.
This is the right place I'm at right now, the Bible Box?
Yep, that's it.
So this is essentially the same thing, just a different company or different organization, rather.
Weirdly enough, the gentleman that helped start Bible Box used to work for MAF, and he used to work on the Wi-Fi Bible project. project, which is actually a really neat story. The years ago, many years ago, I was involved with some discussions with GRN and the Jesus Film and Campus Crusade and Transworld Radio and a few other bunch of folks, and we basically tried to create a really big database. We tried to say, hey, can we create a very big database that contains all of the biblical content and all of the forms necessary so that all of the missionaries, evangelists, pastors, they can all go to one place and have one big download. And what everybody came up with is, as much as that sounds beautiful, none of our organizations are going for that. So everybody went their own way, and in going their own way, we all tried different things. One of the prototypes that I built was for a Bible interface to sit on the front of a kiosk so that you could either plug your mobile in, hit it via hotspot, or stick an SD card in and get your Bibles. While the kiosk failed, the idea didn't. And so various missions organizations said, hey, I have IT guys that really would like to play with a project like that. And they went ahead and built things. And Bible Box, Wi-Fi Bible, and a few others came out of that, which is really great. The fact that Olive Tree and Logos and Jesus Film, they all have very nicely done metadata on their Bibles came out of that. So it was really, I wish I could say I started something really big, but I didn't. But it was really cool to be a part of the conversation that led to this stuff.
But this is awesome because this has instructions on how to make your own. Just with that TP-Link router that you've got, Wes.
Yep.
Create one. Have you tried that yet, or are you interested in doing that?
Well, now that I know that it's out there, I might have to pick up another one of these and see about it, see about what it would take to do it.
How much do they cost?
$30.
Yeah, Bible boxes.
Yeah, 41 right now at Amazon, it says.
No, I literally just picked this up this week on Amazon for $30. Okay. So this is the TP. This might be a different. No, it's $30.40. B&H Photo has it on sale for $31. So you just have to find the right seller.
So you can put your own files on there and just sort of serve them up to people.
Yeah,
who
pretty much.
This is basically the TP-Link runs on an open source firmware that's easily flashable. So
OpenWRT.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what BibleBox is using, because that's what I did with this.
It is.
You put on a custom version of OpenWRT, and that serves up the applications that will allow it to run different things. So Antoine's is doing Bibles. I'm a little less spiritually minded. Mine's running a camera server. So.
Well, it also actually reminds me of some stuff that I've done with our church here, which is using Raspberry Pi devices to do a couple things around the sanctuary. For one of them, I hooked up a camera on the Raspberry Pi, and have another Raspberry Pi in the nursery, right? That is just so you can see through the camera what's happening on the at the front, and another one for doing the announcements on another screen. Easy to set up. I think there's a lot of opportunities for this that are very standalone. You set it up once, you never need to touch it again. It doesn't need to be on the internet, so it's going to be reliable. It's not going to need any messing with. You can get a lot of mileage out of that.
Yeah.
So one of the good things about this particular the Bible Box, one of the strikes in its good category, I am currently inside the tropics. It is beautifully hot. It's been 90, and tropics 90 here. I've been in 90 in Charlotte, and that does not compare to 90 here. It is beautiful, but it's hot. And electronics get very hot. My iPad, for instance, has experienced more "you are getting hot" notices than it should. This does not burn up.
It does run cool. It's amazing.
It's quality enough component that it can actually take being in the tropics. The Wi-Fi Bibles were actually built to withstand a good bit of that heat as well, and also the jostling of being tossed around in an airplane. While they get to intended destinations. Wi-Fi Bible, some of the bigger models are actually built such that they're a little bit easier to repair. Again, some of the opportunity is not just to be able to give content, but to actually build, help these communities build an economic foundation. So if you can teach somebody how to fix a router in one community, they can go around the other community fixing a router, and they can take a bunch of these routers with them while they're doing so. So they're not just taking the Bible with them, but they're taking a means to connect folks, which is really that's why I exist in this world. So that's the,
And these things,
that's
the person setting it up could use it as an internet hotspot that also serves this stuff. Is that right or not?
It would have to do a pass through to.
Yeah.
You have to use it as a pass through, and it's totally capable. Bible Box is a little bit more stable in doing that. Wi-Fi Bible is really meant to be in a not internet place.
Well, my reason for thinking of that is there's a lot of, my understanding, you would know better, you travel more, but in international places, especially third world places, they're always looking for ways to get online, and if you could set it up as an online, coffee shop or whatever they have over there, people come through to get online, you can block the nefarious sites, but let them get on to get their Gmail or whatever it is they use, and then also have this available. Could that be possibly a good mission?
Kind of, Kevin, but they support. I mean, the routers like this, they're not designed for a lot of concurrent connections. I think they support like 5.
Yeah.
And if you have 5 people doing something, it will melt pretty quick.
Yeah. For Internet Cafe, which you're talking about there, Kevin. Weirdly enough, it's actually kind of cool and sad and cool all again. Internet cafes are still decent in the developing world in terms of folks will still go to an internet cafe. You'll see a lot of motels that offer this, coffee shops, hostels, etc. But what's happening is that cell phone towers are being put up so fast, and internet is getting cheap. That such that the internet cafe model is actually falling out of favor. And what's happening as it's fallen out of favor is that basically people are buying smartphones and they're being given 0 rated smartphone data plans. And essentially the 0 rate says go to Facebook and it's free. If you go anywhere else, will cost you. So everybody goes to Facebook. And in this region of the world, Australia, Southeast Asia, East Africa, down to the southern tip, parts of India, China, Facebook is the internet, and 0 rated internet plans make that happen. So it is a very difficult thing to do the internet cafe model. At the same time, there are these areas that haven't been built up yet. So Papua New Guinea, as an example, 3 years ago, Papua New Guinea on the whole island had maybe 5 cell towers, and they were in the center of the 3 largest cities. Now they have 36 in one, and 40 in another, and 30 in another. I mean, cell towers are going up basically faster than people can use them. But in the areas in between where the cell coverage doesn't reach to, what folks are really doing, they're downloading content on their mobile device, and then they're sharing it via an SD card when they get to those low connectivity areas. And because joblessness is a very major issue there, what's being shared is usually not good content. And so what mission agencies like MAF, Gospel According Networks, etc., New Tribes Mission, what they're doing is they're going into those areas with these hotspots. So if you will, the appearance of the internet or the appearance of connectivity, and giving a different antidote to what's happening there. So kind of bringing back the internet cafe, but not in the way that it's used to be.
Well, that's awesome, and I think we're kind of at our time limit. I know, Wes, you had something you wanted to share about camera. I don't even remember what you said, but can you hold that over till next week? We can.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, it's the same router that Antoine is showing off, so we'll show it next week.
All right. So just what's a preview? Just what are we going to talk about?
Essentially, if you want to be able to control your camera wirelessly, this is a good way to do it. And if you're on iOS, this is $30 and the app is $10. If you're on Android, this is $30 and the app is free, or a computer. So if you're interested in that type of photography and doing different artsy stuff with it, this is a good way to go, and I'll show it off next week.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll also include some other photography or videography-centric ideas for helping the church use those things for their ministries.
Yep.
All right, sounds good. Well, listen, thanks a lot, especially David. We really want to say thank you to you jumping on here with us and showing off verse 3, and we just hope that takes off and does real well for you.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right.
Thanks,
And the
Dave.
rest of you guys, God bless you, and thanks for being here as always. And we will sign off. Thanks.
See you next week.
See you guys.